Game developers, what is something gamers on the internet always claim to be easy to do or fix, when in reality it's a real pain in the ass? From experience, those bugs that we have no idea how to reproduce are the worst. People can only give vague descriptions like it just stopped like that, and then you spend hours unsuccessfully trying to have the same issue.
The craft of game design is mostly invisible, despite what all those game design review YouTubers would tell you. Putting a game together is a million microscopic little things that nobody would ever realize. For example, yesterday I added a HUD display for the user's coin count. However, the game has a multiplier feature so that each coin you collect might actually be worth 2 coins, or 5 coins, or 100, or 43,584 coins. I wanted a nice little thing where instead of the HUD tally changing instantly, it would rapidly count up. So if you got 5 coins you'd see the counter go brr and add all the numbers on one after the other. Except the speed that makes this look nice for 5 coins doesn't work when you just got 463,337 coins. I tested it and I had to wait over a minute for the HUD counter to catch up to the correct coin tally, totally unusable. So it has to change the speed that it does the little count up animation, based on how many coins you just got. So I wrote some code that dynamically increases the speed of the count up, proportionally with larger numbers. That's just for a damn coin counter that nobody will ever look at twice. No game design YouTuber is going to point that out. No gamer will ever notice. But you'd notice if it was wrong. That's game development.
Convincing managers something is worth the effort. Those who don't actually make games or know how they're made somehow make all the big decisions.
Hackers, desync, physics.
Server maintenance, and the unforeseen delays on getting the servers back up on time. Along with any number of reasons this gets delayed, specifically replies to people saying, shouldn't they have tested for this stuff? 1.
Optimizing. I use the quotation marks because I feel like most people don't really understand what optimizing is.
Pretty much everything you can imagine, as even if the change itself is simple, it's constrained by dependent systems and content. If I change jump height, any levels that have already been made with the old height in mind may have to be remade. If I change how crafting works, the inventory system may need a revision. If I add a cover mechanic, all levels must now be updated with cover objects, and AI needs to be updated to know what cover and cover objects means. If I add a third-person camera perspective to an FPS, each action that is animated in first person has to be reviewed for how it works in third person. Also, the levels have to be updated because the camera can now exist outside of the player character. If I change the speed at which the player character moves, level streaming may need an adjustment, and if the bottleneck is hardware speed, I may need to compromise on audio-visual fidelity instead. If my game uses FMV cutscenes, content design might be forced by what happens in those cutscenes, if it's not in the budget to render them again as the design changes. Games are houses of cards more often than not.
Not a game dev, but I hear people saying, why don't they switch to X game engine? The new demo looks so pretty. I'm sure that is a simple task, right?
Why not just add an easy mode, hard mode? Yeah, and have to rebalance every single thing in the entire game a second time? That's no small task if you want the new mode to not be completely unfun. See? Every game where the hard mode just turns the enemies into damage sponges and nothing else.
Adding multiplayer to a single-player game. Making a multiplayer game is okay, but adding multiplayer usually involves rewriting a lot of code.
Player behavior.
Making design decisions. Every other gamer goes, why can't they just make an open world, sandbox, MMORPG, DMC combat party mechanic, battle royale, but also MOBA with interactive story with moral choices and social links and multiple waifus and deep world changing decisions and farming mechanics, etc., etc., etc. These devs are lazy. Every other gamer thinks just because they can imagine it. Hell, not even imagine. Just remotely think about smashing 8 of their favorite games together in no particular controlled fashion.
Nobody's really said it yet, but from secondhand experience, sound. Lots of layers, lots of optimization, lots of trigonometry. And when it fails, it's usually very noticeable. And especially so in a competitive game where players often rely on, or respond more quickly to, sound cues.
Balancing items/weapons/skills in PvP modes. Just because 40 people complain the loudest that a weapon is OP on social media doesn't mean the majority of the community feels the same. Also, when one is testing the balancing within the company before deploying the changes to production, the testers can't be expected to have the same skill level as those out in the wild, so satisfaction will vary. Like juggling chainsaws, and no matter what you do, someone will claim they can do it better than you.
I love how I'm scrolling through the comments and see pretty much every aspect of a game being listed, game designer and game developer commenting and just agreeing XD. For me personally, I work in research and QA right now. And let me tell you, QA is not just sitting around and playing the game. I'm sorry, but the game isn't even remotely finished and it's not balanced or fun at all just yet. So no, I'm bored AF going through the same motion, seeing every bit of the map for the 10th time, trying to find some bugs the programmers have to fix. It's just annoying.
There needs to be online multiplayer.
One word, programming. I'm not a game developer, but I'm a software developer. It's no different if we're talking about game development, banking software, or a mobile application. Users are ignorant on the work that's involved to make even the smallest change. Once the change is done, there's a whole load of testing and quality assurance to do.
A bit meta, but listening to any type of public opinion, demand and applying it. If your game has any semblance of a community around it, chances are, people are complaining about something no matter what. The whole process of identifying if your game actually have a problem or if it's just a vocal minority complaining, or even if the thing they complain about that would be extremely problematic to be removed because of the purpose it was implemented in the first place. Identifying the problem. Players usually suggest about a lot of solutions without understanding a thing about how to keep the team's vision, how that logically work, why they are complaining, etc., etc. So we have to find the actual root of the complaints. Worry about budgeting and time constraints. No time to fix that bug that doesn't lock the game, the deadline is approaching. Never gets revisited. If an actual problem is found and there's money and time to fix it, figure out how, considering all the moving pieces of the game and what experience they're trying to convey, test the hell out of it, implement it. It still might still be buggy even with testing. People complain and send death threats anyway.
Making the AI not do stupid things.
Honesty, I would say it applies to the majority of game development. I'm constantly baffled by how little even the most well-known critics know. They will occasionally throw in some game-related terminology to seem more knowledgeable, such as, "the new version of the game has more polys and stuff." But the short answer for me is remasters of games. In which all fairness, some remasters are absolutely dire. Think BioShock 1 remaster and Kingdoms of Amalur. Effectively they just rebuilt the lighting and repackage it as a new product. But then you have games like Demon's Souls Remaster, which is essentially a brand new game that unfortunately people on the internet seem to think all the developers have done is turn the graphic style all the way up to max.
The localization of a game. Every time I read people complaining for a bad translation, which 99% of times is just a preference in style, or because they found a misspelling, I cannot help to raise my eyebrows. AAAs have hundreds of thousands of words in text, they're translated, reviewed and QA'd by multiple people in such a complex process. No matter how many times you review or pass the spelling tool, there will be always something that slips through the cracks, and an asshole in Twitter will rant about how reading of instead of off ruined his whole gaming experience and how better he would do the job instead.
Probably the most interesting AI behavior bug was Aliens Colonial Marines. Due to a missing semicolon, winking face, in the code, the aliens' behavior became more docile. With it added back in, which anyone can do, add the game more playable.
Wait, why is this NSFW?
May your day be filled with joy and happiness. And please remember to subscribe to Upvote for the best quality content every day.